Yes, now, Stephen J.J. Weisman, author of the book Identity Theft Alert, 10 Rules You Must Follow to Protect Yourself from America's #1 Crime. Stephen is also the founder of the blog Scamicide.com. Stephen, thanks for Skyping in from Amherst. I know we've got consumer stuff to talk about, but this whole thing with China, how serious and how widespread is the hacking done by China here in the United States?
Well, fortunately, it's not a problem at all because the Chinese government has assured us they don't do that.
Oh.
And if anyone believes that, we've got some bridges to sell you. It's a really serious problem because what happened here is what's happened in the hacking of some other companies too. The Defense Department is actually pretty good at protecting itself. However, we deal with contractors, particularly in moving materials, sometimes even troops, other technological support, and these companies were what was hacked. And the problem is, by getting into them, just like someone got into a contractor who worked with Target, that gives you your access into the military websites and computers. And that scares the hell out of me, particularly because it has been going on repeatedly. It's a real vulnerability we've got to patch.
Well, you talk about the commonalities of this type of criminality, not only going on with our military contractors, but you mentioned earlier with a lot of American businesses. As we are coming on the air, just heard from my producer, he has received an email from Home Depot. Apparently, he had one of his cards, that was one of the cards that was the information got in the hands of some people. And so Home Depot is now announcing via email to those customers, hey, a free year of security detection, checking your accounts. Is that enough to pacify consumers who have faced problems like the ones they encountered at Home Depot?
No, it isn't. And let me give you a warning about that as well. And I'm one of those consumers. When you get that kind of an email from Home Depot, you can't be sure if it's really from Home Depot. It very well may be. But the link that you click on to get your free credit monitoring may actually be downloading malware. So do what I did. When you get that, go to the Home Depot website. And there you can click on to get the credit monitoring. But frankly, the credit monitoring won't protect you. I kind of liken it to you're crossing a street, you get hit by a bus, and someone comes over and tells you, guess what, you just got hit by a bus. So it alerts you to the fact that I have been victimized, but it doesn't prevent it. So you want to use it, but you also want to put a credit freeze on your credit report.
Good advice, and we certainly appreciate it, Stephen J.J. Weisman. We want to have you back again. Once again, Stephen is the author of the book Identity Theft Alert, and of course the founder of the blog Scamicide. Love the name of that thing, Scamicide. Speaking of bloggers, we're going to add into our conversation now our friend Javier Manjarres, the managing editor of yet another blog, Shark Tank. And how do people get to it, Javier?
Shark-tank.com.
There it is, shark-tank.com. Javier, we had a situation where Senator Rand Paul went out to keynote the California Republican Convention. And he is going after, last hour we talked about Hillary Clinton, but now Senator Paul is going after President Obama and his handling of the ISIS crisis. Paul says that the president's handling of the situation, quote, sounds like something out of the bizarre third world where there is no rule of law, end quote. What is your take on what Senator Paul had to say?
Well, I think Senator Paul is obviously positioning himself for 2016, and he wants to get one leg up on the Rubios and the Cruzes of the world who have already gone up against President Obama with his failure to act properly with the situation against ISIS. But again, this is just politics as usual. He's looking to get his free earned media, and that's all it is.
Well, it is interesting to see the usual suspects, not only those who may have 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in their future ambitions, but also the folks who philosophically come along and defend the president. We're going to take a listen to David Corn speaking on MSNBC defending the Obama administration. Here it is.
This White
with no
House is
plan
not
about what
telling
to
us
do
the
in it.
truth. This White House is not telling us
About
the
what?
truth. General Dempsey
About what?
this week testified that Obama told him to come to him about combat troops on a case-by-case basis. The White House then comes out and says, oh, no, Dempsey was mistaken. The president said no such thing. The president then comes out and gives a speech saying, I have never suggested combat troops. This White House does not get its story straight.
This is nothing compared to saying we're going to war in Iraq over WMDs. Come on.
Dempsey
All right.
And so once again, is this always going to remain the pattern? Everybody on the left is going to go back to George W. Bush?
That's been the case ever since, and always will. Blame Bush. That is their talking point. When all else fails, blame Bush.
Rand Paul, just to return to that topic, and a guy who's looking at 2016, when he was talking about Hillary Clinton in this same keynote speech to the California Republicans, he said, hey, look, she already had her 3 a.m. moment. It came during Benghazi. He didn't spell it out in quite those terms, but it looks like Senator Paul is spoiling for a fight. Here's the exact comment, quote, I think she had a 3 a.m. moment. She didn't answer the phone, and I think it absolutely should preclude her from being president. With talk like this from Rand Paul, is it a lead pipe cinch that he's going to run for the White House in 2016?
Absolutely. He said it the other day. He hasn't fully made that decision, but he's inching to it. And a lot of my sources in Washington, friends of mine who know him very well, said he's definitely doing it. Just like the same can be said about Senator Cruz and Senator Rubio. Paul is going to do it. He's going to test the water some more. But it's a cinch for him to do it. There's too much support for him to run for president.
So you mentioned a few other names right there, and I want to make sure, given your network of sources, you said Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio. So all three of the four young guys who came into the Senate as conservative firebrands.
Three of the four wacko birds per McCain.
Well, I would never. One other difference I had with John McCain is calling those three or those four wacko birds. But three of the four are looking at running.
Absolutely, they are. I mean, I haven't heard it straight from the horse's mouth, but there's been a lot of innuendo around that, a lot of asking of if there's support in Florida for any one of these possible candidacies. And when people are asking if there's support for their candidacies in Florida this early on, they're really looking to run.
Well, yeah, if they're already looking around to Florida, because right now in Florida, we're taking a look at this huge gubernatorial election. Let me just say, I noticed driving around, it's fascinating that both candidates are using identical font. There's nothing that separates. Maybe the colors are a little different, but the same format, the same kind of printing on the yard signs for Charlie Crist and Rick Scott.
Well, it kind of seems that way. Since they're in the news that they're talking about Rick Scott, Charlie Crist. I mean, it's a different font, I assure you, but it just seems like it is because you see so much of their bumper stickers, yard signs. Now you're seeing a lot of Charlie Crist billboards pop up.
Speaking of the ongoing saga of the blogger and the former and perhaps future governor, if he has his way, any more updates? Have you been to any more Chris events and been shown the door lately, or has there been a new court?
I went to one event, and all of a sudden they said there was closed press. It was shortly after the last time they booted me out of their event. It was closed press, so I respected that and I left. Mind you, it was at the New Birth Baptist Church down in Miami. So again, they're blurring that line between with 501c3s and campaigns, because the event was a political event held at the actual church on the church grounds.
Well, now that's kind of interesting, because there always seems that when Charlie Crist changed registration, all the concern about churches being used for political rallying, for political arenas just goes.
Oh, this is Charlie Crist. Everything goes. I mean, issues go out the window. I mean, he doesn't care. This doesn't make a difference. As long as he's in position to win, it doesn't matter. Nothing matters to Charlie Crist.
And so basically this race is going to boil down to Charlie Crist says, hey, look, I'm a nice guy. You really like me. And Rick Scott saying, well, you may have problems with my personality, but you can't argue with my performance as governor. Is that essentially the way this race is going to be decided?
That's all it is. It's going to turn out to be, again, boiled down to who is the least favorable. Again, look at their favorability ratings are in the toilet. So if Rick Scott is less favorable, he loses. If Charlie Crist is less favorable in the public eye, then he loses.
Less than a minute left. Those of us in politics always wonder about an October surprise. Do either of these candidates for governor of Florida have an October surprise they're readying?
I don't think so. I think the big October surprise has already been out in the public, has been the Libertarian Wiley, who could turn out to be a spoiler for either one of them. If the race comes down to that close, and I think a lot of people are suspecting that he's up like 6% or 6 to 9 percentage points as far as popularity.
That is a significant presence.
I would say that's the October surprise.
Well, we'll take a look at it. Javier Manjarres, thanks very much for your insights. You heard what Javier had to say. Do you agree? Tweet us your comments at Newsmax TV, #America's Forum. We're coming right back.